Hello everyone, this is Anil. I welcome you all to my tutorial Angular in a month. I have 5 years of experience in IT field and I am here to help you guys to learn Angular concept. To help you guys, I have created a Facebook page Techno UI Expert. In this page on daily basis, I am publishing my YouTube video link and my blog links. You can get the practical concept from my YouTube video. I am also providing my YouTube channel wherever in which you will get all my YouTube videos related to Angular. And also you can go to my blog where you will see all the theoretical concept and possible interview questions that is being asked by interviewer during the interview. So if you click on my blog, you will be navigated to my blog section. So here it goes, Angular in a month. This is my blog section. You can see my profile here. You can subscribe to my blog also by clicking on this button. So there are a couple of posts I published in this book, in this blog. On daily basis I am publishing new post. You can go through my post. So for example, we'll go through in brief on my latest blog, Configure Angular Material in Angular Application. This blog I published yesterday, and in this blog I have written all the steps required to configure Angular Material in Angular Application. Then what do you mean by Angular Material? How the steps to be configured are all explained in detail in my YouTube video series part 3 of Angular in a month. You can find the link to my YouTube videos at the end of this blog. So you can click on this link, it will be navigated to my YouTube video. Also you can get the link to my YouTube video from the post in the Facebook page also. So here it goes, this is my YouTube video. Hello everyone. So please subscribe to my video and press the bell icon. You will be notified whenever I will upload a new video. So without wasting time, let's go into the business. So the today topic is data binding in Angular. So data binding is one of the most common and most important concept that is being asked by interview in your selection process. So be prepared for these questions. So if someone asks you what do you mean by data binding, then what is your answer? I am watching the video. Okay, now I will help you how to answer this. Data binding in Angular means a connection bridge between data and model, or we can say it is, in other words, data binding is flow of data from view to model and vice versa. And there are basically, excuse me, there are basically two categories of data binding. One is one-way data binding and second one is two-way data binding. One-way data binding means flow of data from component to view, either from component to view or from view to component. And two-way data binding is a bidirectional data binding. In two-way data binding, model and view are always in sync. So let's jump to the one-way data binding. So there are two categories of one-way data binding. Case 1 is one-way data binding in which data flows from component to view, and case 2 is one-way data binding in which data flows from view to component. So we will look into the case 1 of one-way data binding, that is flow of data from component to view. There are subcategories of this case 1. So we will look into the first subcategory, that is interpolation. So open your Visual Studio and go to your project. If you see, this is the app component.html file, this is the ts file, this is the css file. App component is our main component, or we can say entry component of our application. So in the ts file of app component, I will declare one property first name. I'll give some value, that will be a name. This is my name, you guys, if you don't know my name. Then I will declare one more property, last name. Then I will bind it, this property, to my view, or you can say to the HTML. So I will write the div tag. Div tag I will use h for header, one more h for header. So here we will give double curly braces. Here also double curly braces. I will copy the property name here, first name, paste it here. Then I will copy my last name and I will paste it in the HTML. So this kind of binding is called interpolation. You can see. Oh, sorry. Just a minute. I'll copy it here. This. So this type of binding is called interpolation. So interpolation is like interpolation. So if you are binding the property to the view using double curly braces, then it is called interpolation. Once again repeating, if you are binding your model property or class property, first name and last name, to the view using double curly braces, that is called interpolation. Let's look how it is rendering. We'll go to our, so this one is the first name, this one is the last name. So in this way data flows from component to view. This is called interpolation. So we'll comment it. Then second categories of one-way binding is property binding. So in property binding, we'll bind the property of an HTML to the component. For that I will declare a new property or new property of this class. Let's suppose message. I am giving it welcome to my tutorial Angular in a month. Sorry, here it goes. Okay. This is I have declared a property message and I have initialized that property to one string. So I will bind this property to the property of an HTML element. So for that I will use span element and I will use the property of span. Inner HTML is a property available for all the HTML element. So I will bind it to the property of my class, which is message. So here it goes, message. So please notice in property binding we will enclose the property within the square bracket and then we will bind it to one of the class property. So if you see it here, let's see how it renders. So here it goes here. So this one. So if you inspect it, right click and inspect it, and if you see this text welcome to my tutorial Angular in a month is coming between this span element. But if you notice we have not written anything within this span. As we are using property binding, so whatever we bind to this property or the value this property contains, that value will be available within this span, and this is called property binding. So this one is your property binding. Okay, so we will comment it also. So this is what about the property binding. So we have completed two subcategories of case one of one-way data binding. So in these two categories, data flows from component to view. Then one more categories is there. We'll take the third category as attribute binding. In attribute binding, we'll set the property of an attribute of an HTML element. So how it is like? So for that, we'll create a table, then we use th. Sorry, we'll use first tr. In the tr we'll use th. I'll give one heading, student name. Okay, name. Then I will use tr for body, td, and then td r. Then one more row, tr td td. This is my mother name. This is Mala. Title is car. So this is the table that I have created. So I will give, if we see it how, I will give some style also, and afterwards I will look style. equal to net border configuration. So red is not looking good. Black I will give. Let's see how it looks. So it looks like this: student name, then this much. Okay, we can say this photo we want to use. So this is like student name, and it is coming here. Okay, we'll give border to this also. Tier element, then tier element, tier element, tier also will give tier element, tier element. Why I am giving, you will notice in just a moment. Then tier element. Let's see how it looks. This is what. So now the requirement is this student name should cover these two columns. So if you see here, student name is coming under the first column. I want to cover it, I want to span it through the two column. How it can be done? So we can use here property binding. Here we can use attribute binding. So how it is? I will do for attribute binding in the table we will use square bracket attr dot call span equal to some value. We'll write the number of columns that we want to span. Can say column width is equal to I want 2. So this is the property I declare in the class. I want to bind it to the call span of table. So we can do this way. So I will copy that property, column width. Let's see how it looks. It has not refreshed it, right? Sorry, we have given it at the wrong place. I think, yeah, it should not be in table, it should be in tr of header. Paste it. Let's see. Oh, what I am doing, man. We'll give it to th of header. Let's see now. It will be fine now. Okay. Now the header, table header is spanning through the two columns. How this is possible? This is possible by attribute binding. Please notice in attribute binding we have to write the property call span within the square bracket along with the prefix attr. So attr dot property name. Okay. So why attribute binding is required? Because there are some property, we can say there are some property of an HTML element that we cannot bind using property bindings. For that we have to use attribute binding. In place of attribute, if I am removing this prefix att at dot and I am binding call span to column width, if you see what it is giving, it is giving a compilation error. Cannot bind to call span since it is not a known property of th. So call spans is not a known property of th. So we cannot bind it through property binding. For that we have to use attribute binding. So there are some property for which we have to use attribute binding. One is call span and second one is SPG. These two things I know. Like there may be couple of property for which. So if you are binding to a property and you are getting an error like it is not a known property of an HTML element, then it means you have to use attribute binding. I think this is clear now. So we have completed attribute binding also. So we have completed attribute binding. Then we'll go to the class binding. So what is class binding? If you want to add or remove a class from an HTML element, then we have to use class binding. For that, we'll declare a class. Let it be dot uh, my color class, in which I will give a color to the text color, which is red. Like red color very much. So I always prefer this red color. But it is unfortunate that we very rarely use this color in our corporate world. We use this only for showing the error message. That's I'm not happy with this uses of this beautiful color. So okay, let's come to the serious topic. So this is the class I have declared in CSS file, and I have an HTML element. Let it be h4 element. Hello, welcome to tutorial. In this I want this text to be displayed in red color. How we can do? By using class binding, square bracket, within that we have to write class dot the name of the class that we have declared here, my color. So equal to, here we will give some boolean value, true or false. If it is true, if we are giving true, then it will be displayed in red. If you are giving here false, then this class won't be applied to this one. So by this we'll remove and add a class to an HTML element on the basis of whether it is true or false. So I will declare a variable like text color, which is of type boolean. I'll give it first true. Okay, and I will copy this property and bind it to the class text color. Let's see how it looks. So here you go. The text is displayed in red color, means the color that we have mentioned in our class. Okay. So if I am changing this value to false, now the text color value is false. We are binding to the HTML element by class name equal to text color. Now text color is false, so this class won't be applied to h1. Let's see how it is. So see, the red color is not visible, so it means class is not applied. So this is like class binding. So notice in class binding we have to use square bracket, then within the square bracket we have to write class dot your custom class name, and you have to declare the custom class in the CSS file, and you have to give whatever CSS you want to give for we want to write, then equal to some property, or you can say boolean value. If this property is true, then the class is applied. If this property having value false, this my color class won't be applied, and this property text color we have declared in the component. So the now this in this case also data is flowing from the component to HTML. The text color value is flowing from the component to HTML. Okay, this is all about class binding. Then we will come to the next case of one-way binding. We can say, sorry, next subcategories of case 1, that is style binding. What is style binding? If you want to apply some inline CSS to an HTML element, we have to use style binding. Okay, so how it will be like same thing, we will use h4 element. So I will write comment my Facebook page techno UI expert. So I will use, instead of h4 I will use p element. So if you see it in the browser, so it looks like this. And let's suppose now the requirement is I want to increase the font of this text. How we can do? We can do it by style binding. So if how we do it, how it would be like in square bracket style dot font, then hyphen, then size dot, I want to give font size in pixel, then we have to give px equal to 100. Let's see how it looks. See, our text is, the font size of our text increased to 100 pixel. I have given 100 here. We can, like similarly, we can write it here also. Text size, which is a number of 100, and we will bind this property to the HTML. Instead of 100, we will write text size. The result will be the same, no changes. Okay, so in this case also data flows from the component, that is text size, to HTML, this one. Okay, This is all about the case 1 of one-way data binding. It is flow of data from component to view. Then comes to case 2 of one-way data binding. That is flowing of data from view to component. How data flows from view to component. So in this case, we'll cover event binding. We'll create a function. See how to create a function in DTS file. We'll create a function on click, let it be. You can give any convenient name. The function, then this much. Okay. In on click, I will write console dot log. Here we write message. This is the parameter that we passed in the function. Here message. Okay, so we have a function on click having a parameter message, and we are displaying, means we are writing it in our console. So in HTML, for event binding, I will create a button and I will attach a click event. Click. So for event binding, we have to write in the bracket, and within that event name equal to the function name or event handler function. Event handler function that we have defined in TS file. It is on click function. We'll copy it and write it here. Here it goes. I will give some messages like welcome, welcome all. I'll give a string message of the parameter to that function, and we will give a convenient name to the button. Click me. I'll save it. Let's see how it looks. Here it goes. If you see in console, go to the console. Oh, which document? So we'll clear the console. Clear it. Now there is nothing is visible in the console. Now on click a button, it will call the event handler function, that is on click function that we have defined in TS file, and we are passing the data from HTML to TS with as a parameter to this event handler function on click, and we are attaching an event click event. So let's see what is happening on click a button. As we click the button, here we will get welcome all in console. So this is all about the event binding. So in event binding, data flows from view to component. So we are done with the one-way data binding. Now we will focus on two-way data binding. I will erase everything. Okay. So once again I am explaining, two-way data binding means it is a bidirectional flow of data from component to view and view to component at the same time. So in two-way binding, view and model are always in sync with each other. Whenever the data changes, view get modified at once. Okay, so we'll see how two-way data binding works. So two-way data binding is possible in two ways. Like we'll see the two ways in just a moment. So let's I will go to the first way how it can be done. For that we have to use one input field, input type equal to text, and below that writing it in the curly braces means within the interpolation will display the value that the user type in the input field, that user is going to type in the input field. Okay, now I will bind this input field to a value equal to, so what value it will bind, for that we have to declare here. So I will remove these functions that we have created earlier. So the value here I will give first name as Anil. Okay, so I will bind this property to my HTML here. Sorry, oh yeah, that's correct. Then also here. So whatever the value we have initialized to the first name here, it will be assigned to the input field as well as it will be described below. Then I will use one event as input equal to, then first name equal to dollar event dot target dot value. Okay, so input is an event, and dollar event dot target dot value will give the value that the user will type in the input field. Whatever the value the user type, that will be assigned to the first name. Then whatever is assigned to the first name, it will be assigned to the value property of input field, and also it will be displayed below in the interpolation. This is like a two-way data binding. See, so like how it is two-way, whatever the value user enters in the input field, that is view, that will be assigned to the property of component. So now the data flows from view to component. Then whatever the value is assigned to the component property first name, it will again bind to the value property using property binding of input field, and it will be displayed below. So now the data flows from component to view. So that's why it is called two-way data binding. Okay, let's see how it looks. So here it comes, it is the input field having initial value as Anil. Why it is initial value is Anil? Because we have declared first name, we have given some value Anil. That first name we have bind it to value property using property binding, and also we have displayed using interpolation that we have studied earlier, and that's why initially it is showing Anil here and also below here. Now if I am changing anything here, it will be updated below also. See, oh, due to some reason it is not working. Why it is not working? Is there, oh, man. So this method, it should work. What's wrong in that? So here if we see first name, then it will be applied to There is something wrong here. I can't figure out. It's really like I'm getting error. What is that? Second, I will clear this one. So we can also do one thing. If it is not working, then key of event. I will call one function. Let it be like change. Any name you can give. Change name. You pass dollar event dot target dot value and change name. And declare here name this dot first name. We have to access the property by using this keyword. That's important if you are noticing. Then see, it's giving error, so we'll cut it and paste it. We'll give a kick, then they're gone. Let's see. Now it is working. See, whatever I am changing in the input field, it is getting reflected below. So this is like two-way data binding. So once again I will explain how it is working, because you may get confused here. So we have declared a property first name in the class. I have initialized the first name to a value Anil. Then I have used an input field. I bind that first name to the value property of input field. Then I have used an event binding key of event, like whenever we will press the key, then it will call this function change name. Change name we have declared here. Then whatever the value we are passing here, that will be assigned to this one. So the value $event.target.value will give the value that user enters in the input field. So whatever the value, whenever user press the keyboard button, then this change name will be called and that value get passed and that value get assigned to the first name. So now the data is flowing from the view to TS. Once the first name get updated here, that first name will be reflected in view, because that first name which is assigned is binded to value property by using property binding, and also it is being displayed here below using interpolation. So now the data is flowing from component to view. So in this way it is called two-way data binding, like, or you can say bidirectional data binding. So I think it is clear. This is the first way in which we can use two-way data binding. So there is one second way of two-way data binding by using NG model. Let's see how it works. So before using NG model, I will remind you that in this first way we are using property binding, that is within the square bracket, and also the event binding within the bracket. And NG model that we will use in a moment is a combination of this property binding and event binding. How it is, we'll see in just a moment. So we'll erase this one. we'll use property binding this, then event binding this, then we have to write ng model within that equal to some property, the property that we have written here, first name. So it is the first name. If we see, write in single quote, write that in single quote. So it is giving an error. It is showing that cannot bind to ng model since it is not a known property of input. Why this error it is showing? Because to use ng model we have to import one modules in our main module file. The module is called forms module. So in our module.ts file we have to write one more module which is forms modules. We click this one, it will be imported above also. So if you see here, it get imported. So I will cut it, paste it above our component. So we have included forms module in the import array of app.module.ts and also in the import statement above. So ng model is mentioned in forms modules. So in order to use ng model, we have to import the forms module in our main module file. So now we'll cut it and paste it again. Now the error gone. So see, in this second way we only have to write a single word, that is ng model, and also we have to import once forms module for that. So if you see, it works the same, and then if we are changing anything here, it will be reflected below. So this is also a two-way data binding. So in this, so we can say ng model means it is a combination of both property binding because it is written in square bracket, and event binding because within the square bracket we have another bracket. So this is all about the binding in Angular. All the theoretical knowledge about data binding in Angular you will find in my blog section. Please go through the blogs and please understand each and every concept because this is going to be your level 1 question in any interview. Any interview you appear, this question is a must. What do you mean by data binding? I think you guys have a clear knowledge, clear idea about the binding. So before winding my session, I want to remind you again, like this is my 4th video in series of video Angular in a month, and I am here to help you guys to learn Angular within a month. To help you guys, I have created a page in Facebook called Techno UI Expert. In this page you will find the links to my YouTube video and to my blog, and on a daily basis I am publishing some new posts and new videos. So please like my post and comment on my post. Please like my page and subscribe to my YouTube videos, and I will make you, I can guarantee that if you follow my videos and my blogs thoroughly, you can able to crack any interview questions. So please go through my blogs and videos, subscribe to my channel. You will find the channel link also in my post, and increase your market value by learning Angular with me. Thank you guys. Thank you for your patience. I'll see you all in my next session. Bye.